And you have to tell us what sort of penis you went for, Vin.
I didn't. I went with a lady, actually. So, yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can put a penis on a lady, obviously. It's the day and age we live in. But it's, yeah, I did. I voted out for that one. I'm like, yeah, it's not really my thing. So I
No penis for me, thank you.
Nope.
Hello, welcome to the Polygon Forest podcast. I am indie developer Chris Jarvis, and I'm joined as ever by Ubisoft concept artist slash indie game developer Vin Hill.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. So on today's episode, we have a few things to talk about. Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver. There is a survey out. It may not be what you think. This is going to be probably the title of the episode, I think. What is Google Stadia and why is it shutting down?
Yeah, the fact that you have to ask that question is telling, but yeah.
Yeah. And then also Jim Ryan.
Jim Ryan's been up to stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But first we'll check in, see how we're doing. So Vin, how have you been? Are you still busy on your super secret project?
Yeah. I've got like 4 or 5 weeks left, and then it ramps off, and I'm just like, I can get back to normal, which is that's what I'm aiming for right now. I'm just looking at the horizon, being like, all right, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's coming fast, but I'm really excited to just get back to a normal schedule, basically. But yeah, once that's out of the way, then I'll be able to start working full on again with Long Gone. So yeah, I'm really excited to get back to that and put some time into it over the holidays, especially like around Christmas. So yeah, it's just everything is sort of moving towards that point where I can sort of start shifting my attention back to things which are important, I guess. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
So episode 70-ish, we could probably have a deep dive into what you're up to and take a look.
Maybe.
Oh, actually, maybe not take a look. Maybe talk about it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's going to be... Yeah, so the next few months is going to be eventful, that's for sure. For side projects anyway is what I'm talking about. Like my main Ubisoft work is still continuing on as normal. Like that's not changing or anything. It's just, there's a lot of other little projects going on in the background which are sort of taking up every single extra moment I've got spare at the moment. But we will absolutely talk about it at some point or another. That's the best way I can describe it. Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
But how about you, man? What's new in the land of Jarvis?
Yeah, I managed to do a bit more work on my game, which has been really good, focusing on mechanics and just building new levels, which has been such a long time since I felt like I've done that, so it feels fresh and new again, which is great.
Awesome.
And then been researching freelance work. So I've been doing a bit of freelance work on the side and figuring out payment structures, like using Wise and looking at PayPal and Revolt and PayPal and business accounts, all boring admin-y grown-up stuff, but it's got to be done. Like, it doesn't matter which software you use, you've got to choose one. And me being me, I have to know the pros and cons of every single one and then understand why I'm going with one. If I don't, I just have this absolute FOMO that's unreal, and I just feel like I made a mistake, even though it probably doesn't make any difference. And I've probably, in terms of man hours, I've spent probably half a day researching bank accounts.
Stupid.
So it's really not a good use of my time, really, if you think about it in that respect. But it's like, sofa time, like sitting down on my phone and looking at stuff. I wasn't like, it wasn't time I could have been spent making a game. So yeah, boring grown up adult stuff. And again, hopefully I want a similar sort of time frame to you. Probably I want to be able to talk about it, but actually probably be sooner than you. I'll be able to do some announcements and stuff because there's nothing stopping me talking about what I've been doing on the side. It's just been more, I've wanted to get to a certain milestone to be able to talk about it. So that'll be sooner than your stuff. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, so in other words, if you are listening to this, like, this is all very cryptic, but yeah, we've got stuff to talk about eventually. So watch this space.
Stay tuned. Yeah,
I guess like it's a funny old business, but this is the way that the games industry is. Unfortunately, like there's a lot of cloak and dagger, there's a lot of NDAs, there's a lot of stuff you have to maneuver around. This is the reality of the business. It's kind of it sucks, but it's just how it is. Unfortunately, like we have to go through these cycles. I remember when I first broke into the industry, it took like a good 3 years to be able to talk about anything that I worked on. It took a long time before I could be like, yeah, I've worked on this thing. It's like, you were quiet for like 2.5 years or something. And that's totally normal, which it sounds like a long time, but it feels like eons longer when you're actually in that boat. You're like, I've got so much stuff to show, especially when your sort of like entire career is based on like portfolio work, right?
Yeah, and it's all NDA'd.
Yeah, and you're trying to show people, and you can't. And it's like, but I've got really cool stuff in my like main portfolio and stuff like this. And it's like, yeah, sure you have.
I've heard of people that worked in the industry for like 7+ years, and they've like gone from one studio to another, and then just through happenstance and bad luck, they get to this point where all their stuff is NDA'd, and they've just got jobs based off like recommendations and what do you call it when people recommend you? Referrals and stuff. And they can't share any of the work they're on about, but they can just go, I've been working with company A on project X. I can't say what it is, but it's this company, so therefore,
Yeah, sometimes like company names by themselves like carry a lot of weight. I mean, that from experience. It's kind of you can use that as the point of interest rather than like showing what you've done, because like if it's a company that no one's ever heard of, like, okay, like who the hell are they? It's like, that's not important. Look at what I did for them. That's the sort of replacement for that. But sometimes there are companies out there that are just like, you don't even have to show anything. I worked for that company. Oh, that company. Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll hire you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a funny old business. But yeah, speaking to that, I knew I didn't know him. I met a guy in Japan, and he was working on Final Fantasy 15 at the time. Before it was 15, it was known as Final Fantasy Versus 13. The game was in development for 10 years. He broke into the industry as a junior back in like 2013. Game didn't come out until like way later, sort of thing. He was in the industry for like 7 years without a single game on his resume. For context, I've been in the industry now for 8 years, and I've got like 7 games on my resume. So it's kind of like that's the comparison. It was like 7 years and not a single game. It's like, yep, still working on the first one. It's like, Jesus Christ, like that is wild. And there's people like that, like the games that take 10 years, because some AAA games do. Like most AAA games take about 6 years to make. Most people think that they take 3, but they don't. It's because they're normally like held quite close to people's chests for a long time.
GTA 6 has got one of the longest development times, right? And it's been the longest time so far in the GTA series where there's not been a GTA game. So it's had the longest amount of development time for a you could extrapolate that because it's been the longest time since the GTA release. That
I doubt. I highly doubt.
Red Dead gets in the way.
I think Red Dead 2 is the kicking point there. It's kind of like I highly doubt they were working on GTA 6 until after Red Dead was.
Until after Red Dead 2. Yeah, I
don't think they were touching it because their team are relatively small for the type of games that they make.
Yes.
They've got like a quarter of what Ubisoft have got, and we just make open world AAA games constantly. And they do it way better as well. Rockstar, I mean. So the fact that
strong sentence there, Vin. Strong sentence.
Well, it's obvious. Otherwise, they wouldn't sell the numbers that they do, and they wouldn't have the engagement that they have. So it's kind of like that's a fair comment to make. I think I challenge anyone at Ubisoft to sort of say any different. Like in terms of the style of game, like if you compare to like a Watch Dogs game to
numbers,
Grand Theft Auto,
yeah, okay, fine. Grand Theft Auto numbers beat Ubisoft AAA open world games, yes, but there'll be thousands, tens of thousands of people that prefer Ubisoft games to GTA games.
Sure, yeah, I mean it depends on the style of game. Like only when you're comparing like apples to apples, like someone like Watch Dogs to GTA, it's relatively easy to argue that GTA has probably got the better open world for good reason. But for something like an Assassin's Creed game compared to a GTA, that's kind of harder to sort of compare because it's apples to oranges, right? Like they're completely different worlds, different objectives, but for the most
catering
part,
to different audiences.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of with that in mind though, like Ubisoft have got over like 20,000 employees worldwide. I think Rockstar are less than 10. So it's kind of they need the extra time, but they also get a lot of the attention that it needs because they've got the budget to do so, because like the success that they've always got behind them, which more power to them. But it's kind of it would be really surprising to me if they had started that game before Red Dead with a sizable team. They probably had a team that were working on the map, but it wasn't not nearly as much as people normally think. It's normally like less than 50 people work on like pre-production phases.
For a AAA. That's good to know. Interesting little tidbit there. Right, what do you want to talk about first?
Whatever you want to talk about. What's at the top of your list, sir?
Well, for me, it's because I love the game Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite games back in the day. I know it would play like garbage today, and I even remember the frustrations I had with some of the games designed back in the day. But I just love it. And yeah, Crystal Dynamics are doing surveys now for people to be like, hey, what do you think about a new Soul Reaver game? Should we make a new story? Should we like remake some of the original games? Like remaster stuff? Like, well, what do you think? What do you think?
Yeah.
So Twitter is abuzz with anticipation and joy at this joyous news. And I was reveling in passing on this good news to Vin, who immediately crushed my dreams into dust and left me feeling hollow, as is his character. But why don't we explain that in more detail, Vin? Like, why did you crush my dreams there?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't. I just wouldn't take surveys for any value. I mean, because this, like, remove the Soul Reaver thing, or like the Legacy of Kain thing, and apply it to like any games company. Like, we've seen this headline a million times, and they rarely come to fruition.
I mean, how long have we seen it with Splinter Cell? I mean, it's probably been about a decade that we've probably been seeing stories about Splinter Cell.
And I guarantee, like, the Splinter Cell remake, which is currently in production, is nothing to do with those survey results. I promise you. Like, it's everything to do with like the outcry on social media, because they prefer to listen to that more than anything.
Right.
Yeah, the surveys are a funny one because they're normally done by a very small slither of gamers that are a lot more active, and the most active gamers are usually between the ages of like 20 and 25. The average age of a gamer is 30. So if you think about it, if you're a 20-year-old right now, and you come across one of these surveys, and you're like hyper into the games industry, and you're like, awesome, right? Let's have a look at this survey. Like, they start going through the questions, and they notice Legacy of Kain. They're going to be like, first of all, what the hell is Legacy of Kain?
What the hell is it?
Because I'm 20 years old, I've never heard of it, right? I'm not actually 20, but I'm like.
You're pretending to be one of these survey takers.
Right, I wish I was 20, but I'm not.
It's like what, PS2, PS1, and PS2. What?
Yeah,
what?
Is that like the older version of the PS4? Because I had one of those when I was a kid. You know, like, these are the sorts of things that they're going to be saying. Like, they've probably never heard of Legacy of Kain. To be blunt, like, that's sort of that's the size of it. So even though people are getting excited, I think the headline is like everyone gets excited about the survey question, but like they probably don't want to see the results of these things, because I guarantee
the results of those 20-year-olds be like, I've never heard of it, I don't care about it, if it's old, I'm not interested, I want something new,
exactly,
shiny.
Yeah
And it's an adventure game. What? I'm a 20-year-old, I'm into first-person shooters and blood and gore and violence, because that's what I was into when I was in my 20s. I was like, Modern Warfare, Medal of Honor, Call of Duty.
So it's just like, we go through ebbs and flows, and it changes a lot. And I think like the average gamer is like 33 to 35 right now. Which is like our pocket, right? This is
average.
Like represent, right? So it's kind of like we're looking at this through rose-tinted glasses, because we're like, Legacy of Kain, man,
nostalgia,
like, nostalgia. Like, we remember
through
that
the roof, 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but we are the minority now, unfortunately. Like, in terms of public opinion, anyway.
Surveys.
Like, we're not the ones vocally like shouting for certain.
I've never taken a video game survey. I don't think I ever will.
That's my point.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, and we see these questions come up all the time. Like, they've happened at Ubisoft. Like, people say, "Oh, what would you feel like a new Rayman game?" Just never happened, sort of thing. And it's like the same thing happens from other studios. It's like Naughty Dog did one a few years ago. Like, what would you feel if like Jack and Daxter came back? Everyone was like, "Oh my god, Jack and Daxter's coming back." They put on this survey. Never came back. Nobody cares.
No, that's
because
true.
we didn't see the results, because they don't make
the results are probably lukewarm. Yeah.
They just don't make green light decisions based on these. They're just another data point. Like for the majority of the time, people green light things. Well, usually how it goes is like, okay, there's a massive outcry for this on social media, like Twitter. It got trending for like 4 days straight. Let's do a prototype. Let's do a pitch for what for example, a new Jak and Daxter game could be, right? They go off, they do a pitch, they do a small prototype. This is what the story would be. They present it. And then at the green light meeting sort of thing, when they're actually deciding if they should move forward with this, if they're actually going to do a proper kickoff and actually go forward, that's where they'll sort of have discussions about, like, okay, how much interest is there actually? Like, we did that survey a few years ago. What's the data point from that? And also, like, what are people saying online? Like, does this prototype that we just got into our hands look so compellingly cool that we have to make it, sort of thing? So, like, really, the thing at the bottom of the list is that survey question. Just like, yeah, whatever. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's such a small piece of information, and it's just adding additional information just to see. But, like, the fact that they're even talking about it on, on news websites, it's kind of like that is the more important thing, that the question itself has generated an interest. So it's like the question itself isn't important, but...
So is it more like taking the temperature of what gamers are thinking and feeling about the IPs, just so that the company is more aware of where they stand with their IPs and can make more informed decisions off the back of that, rather than like 50% of people think a new Jak and Daxter game would be cool, so let's make one. Like, it's not so much about making decisions, it's more about just like understanding where they are in the space.
Yeah, I think because nostalgia is a funny metric to work with, for AAA companies anyway, because you have to wait long enough for the game to be considered like cool to come back, but also not too old at the same time. You need to, like, that balance. Like, there's a window that moves through time, and if you don't hit that window at the right time, then you kind of miss that opportunity, and you don't make as many sales. Basically, people just don't care about it. Like, it'll just go by. I think things like Silent Hill have absolutely gone through that phase a couple of times. Like, like, I remember when Silent Hill was at its peak, but before it got to the sort of, like, everyone was really excited to see Silent Hill come back, they did a bunch of remasters for 2, 3, and 4 that were on the Xbox 360 and PS3. Died. Nobody cared. It just passed by. But if that came out today, people would lose their minds over it. Absolutely lose their minds over it. So it's kind of like, it's a funny business, really, because you got to wait for the right moment. And I think Soul Reaver is kind of in its time is kind of
passed. I think it's kind of in that. Do you reckon it's past?
I think it's past. Because because the people that really are nostalgic for Legacy of Kain in particular is the people that played Soul Reaver on the PlayStation 1. We're on PS5 right now. The only way that they could really regenerate
if
the hype,
a little whippersnapper back in the day like I was, and then now mid gamer.
Yeah, it's kind of like the only way they could really gauge that properly is if they did a full remake of Soul Reaver 1, which I would welcome. I think it would be cool. I don't think it would be anything like the original at all. It would be so different, and rightfully so.
It would have to be different.
It would have to be.
It just wouldn't stand up to today's standard.
And then, like, after that release, then you could be like, okay, let's see what people are interested in now. Let's see if they'll actually do it. Because this happens all the time. They reboot IP all the time, and they just fall flat on their face sometimes. Like Medal of Honor.
Like Tomb Raider's gone through ebbs and flows, hasn't it, of reimagining and reinvention.
It's a great example.
What I was going to say, though, that could go into Soul Reaver's favour would be what's happened with Ratchet and Clank, where one of the huge, for me, it seems like, just based on the marketing material and the fact, when the games come out, that the new one came out with, the PS5 to showcase what the game could do, because it fit with the IP about the rifts through time and stuff like that. So it was like a way that Sony could showcase what, they could do with the new console.
Right.
Whereas obviously Crystal Dynamics own Soul Reaver and Legacy of Kain, so it might not be able to be a manufacturer to showcase, using that IP to showcase what the new generation of consoles could do. So that might be why Ratchet and Clank came back, whereas something like Soul Reaver might not come back, because it depends on who owns it as well, I guess.
Yeah.
And, because it wasn't to do with an acquisition as to why Crystal Dynamics are talking about Legacy of Kain and Soul Reaver. Wasn't there an acquisition or something or other?
I think Embrace Group just bought them, I believe.
Yeah.
I wanna double check this because I know that Embracer Group bought all of the Square Enix studios, the North American Square Enix studios, most notably like Square Enix Montreal and Eidos Montreal and stuff. Yeah, I think it was Embracer Group. Come on, Vin.
Yeah, Montreal, Square Enix, Montreal.
Yeah. Okay, so it was part of Square Enix. So it
300
was
million.
Part of the exact.
Yeah. Embracer Group. Yeah.
So yeah, because Embracer Group, it'll be. I mean, survey stuff aside, because I never think they're a good metric. Like, do I think that Embracer Group will embrace a Soul Reaver remake? Sure, I think they could. I think that'd be a good thing to trigger off of them. Like, hey, we've acquired this studio. Let's look at their old back catalog and like get them to work on that, because it'll mean free sales, and it'll generate hype, and it'll sort of like put trust, like public trust, into like us as a new publishing arm.
Yeah.
So I think it would be smart to do a new Legacy of Kain game, especially a Soul Reaver, because I think you could do
make
some
it
really
like
good
action
things.
adventure-y and like kind of like Uncharted, but in the Soul Reaver universe, and instead of like guns, you've got like the swords and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
reckon
Soul
really
Reaver was
cool.
directed by Amy Hennig, who went on to write and co-produce Uncharted. So it's kind of like the pedigree is
That's funny how
there.
my brain works, right?
Yeah, like just rehire Amy Hennig and be like, hey, can you remake this? Like, make it look pretty and make it look awesome.
Yeah, now that you know where games can be and you've trailblazed some amazing stories in video games, can you just come back to an original one and see what you can come up with?
Yeah, and Hennig has said multiple times, like, one of her favorite games that she ever worked on was Soul Reaver. Like, she still talks about it fondly on Twitter and stuff. So it's kind of like, it just makes sense. Like, it'd be silly for Embracer not to do that, but
If I had a lot of money and I was in the video games sort of publishing thing and I was just like a big fat cat with a load of scars, I would totally be trying to get that to happen in a room somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause it would have been my first point of order. It's like, okay, like let's get Tomb Raider back in shape, because the third game really didn't do that well. Let's get that IP back in shape.
Easy money. It's like
free money.
Just,
free money.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great IP under Crystal Dynamics. Like, they did Shadow of Mordor, you know?
Yeah.
They did such a great job with that game.
That's on Game Pass.
Yeah.
I'm going to play that game because also Troy Baker is more on my radar now than he used to be a few years ago, and he directed the capture stuff.
The voice. The motion capture stuff.
And he was I think he was Celebrimbor as well, or one of the.
No, he played the main character.
The main character.
Yeah. Like, his British accent is actually not half bad. Like, I'll give him a little bit of credit there. Like, it was like, that's valiant effort. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shadow of Mordor is one of my favorite games. I love that game. I love it. Second one, terrible. Too bloated. Didn't like it.
No, he directed the second one. He didn't direct the first one. So Shadow of Mordor was the second one, I think. It was Shadow of War was the second one.
Yeah. Shadow of War was the second one, and then Shadow of Mordor was the first one. The first one's amazing. Like, such really, really great.
I love the first one.
Good story arc, like, in terms of like trying to figure out, like, okay, what's Celebrimbor. Like, I sort of already knew because I've read this Silmarillion, but like, just understanding like how their characters grow together, and seeing Mordor before it became Mordor, sort of thing, and seeing it transition to the horrible state that it is. God, such a fantastic game. Go play the first one. If anyone's listening to this and they haven't played them, go play the first one. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a really good game.
Yeah. And the mechanic that was groundbreaking, and I've done videos that have got thousands of views back in the day. So this is like 2013, 14.
Yeah.
I did this funny video where I was pretending to talk on a mobile phone and like talking about the publishers, about the marketing team that was saying that you couldn't say anything bad about the game and stuff. It was quite interesting.
Right.
All of us back then thought that was a sea change in games, and it was like, oh, this is where the future of games is going to be. Everyone's going to be using this new system. I can't remember what they called it, where like the game dynamically changes based on what characters you decide to tackle first.
Yeah.
And then like the little grunts become like the big bosses at the end.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
remember what it
about.
was called.
Yeah, they had a very specific sort of
legacy system, or I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to Google it now.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a system basically. So like you could recruit bad guys like the orcs in the game, and the system that they had was like so groundbreaking because it sort of dynamically sort of spoke to each other, and if they could get revenge on you and stuff, and if you killed them, they might come back from the dead, or they might come and like hunt you down and stuff. Like really, really interesting system.
The Nemesis system.
That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Such a great game. God.
And they made that open source. They didn't put a thingamajig on it, so everyone could use it. And no one's used it.
Bananas. Yeah, I mean, because you need the right concept for it, right? That's the thing. It works brilliantly for like orcs and stuff like that, but unless you're making like a mafia game or something, like it kind of like
I was just gonna say, I think a Hitman game would be pretty cool, or something like what was that time game?
I mean, Crystal Dynamics literally make Hitman, so like they wouldn't have to Google the open source of it. So
yeah, that's true. What was that game? The time game with the time loop game that was Dishonored people.
Oh, Deathloop.
Deathloop, yeah. I reckon it'd be cool for like a Deathloop kind of, or a Dishonored type game.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting system, but like point being is Crystal Dynamics have got like such a strong pedigree. Like I think they're one of the most underrated like third parties developers out there. So
they've got their hands in the pockets. And what's going to come out is going to be exciting.
Yeah, if they did do a Soul Reaver remake of some kind, or if they did revisit the IP, it'd be very exciting. It'd be very, very cool for people like us. But they would have a lot to prove to the new generation gamers that just wouldn't have answered that question on those surveys, and would have just been like, "Yeah, I don't care about this thing." Like you need to make them care again. Like it's too far gone. Like you need to, if you're going to reboot that IP, you're only going to get back a good like 5% of the people that played the original sort of thing. Like it's going to be a really small number. So you basically need to start from scratch, which is it's a tough hill to climb.
I think that there is something to be said for the fact that we know that like I don't know what the right word would be, sci-fi gothic or like fantasy gothic
That's
genre,
just like dark fantasy, right? Dark
with like
gothic fantasy,
like Elden Ring stuff. Everyone's lapping that up, but with Soul Reaver, it was like. It played out more like acts, like you had a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
And you had characters, and you had one nemesis and one boss, and their backstory was interesting to learn about, and then defeat, and then go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Very, very different narratively than like things like Elden Ring, but similar in terms of physical look. So I think there's scope, and I think there's a space in the industry for that sort of game to exist and do well.
It was one of the first action adventure games, pretty much. Like that's like as we know it today. Like it kind of set the bar at the time because they were just constantly like fighting over each other at the time, like trying to get to that. What is now the AAA action adventure game, which Sony have sort of like absorbed, and that's like their jam at this point. Games like Soul Reaver, Metal Gear Solid, even games like Eco. Eco was originally meant to be on the PlayStation 1, so it was around the same time. It eventually became a launch title for the PS2. But they were just constantly one-upping each other in that space. So yeah, I mean, it just absolutely fits into something like, you know, just a AAA action adventure game that could come out in like in this day and age without a problem. It would be surprising if they weren't doing something with that IP. But again, I don't think it's anything to do with the surveys. It's just if they've already made that choice, then they would have done it without the drive from the fans or the community and stuff, because it's like, well, if you go and look at all of these articles that are sort of saying, oh my god, Crystal Dynamics are asking people if they want a new Soul River game or whatever, the vast majority of those writers are all like old league. They're all like people like us. They're part of the old breed.
They're our age, aren't they? The journalists.
All the journos are like, they're not in their 20s. Like they're all like grizzled 35-year-olds to 40-year-olds like, I remember that game, you know, sort of thing. It's like, yeah, cool, sweet, like, thanks grandpa, like, can we play a game that's got more than 5 polygons on the screen, please? You know. So like while they're like boosting up hype and getting excited about it, I really don't think anyone else really cares that's like below the age of 30. That's just the reality of this.
Kids today.
Kids these days don't know what they've
They
got.
don't know what they got. They don't even want to play games. They don't even want to play games.
I know, they just
anymore.
watch people play games. Psychopaths.
They just want to watch. They just want to watch people with a lot of energy play them.
It's not even energy, it's fake. That's what it is.
That's true. It's put on energy.
What's
yeah,
up, it's your
shout.
boy Cheese Snipes 986, and
I
today
can't
I'm gonna
believe this game. Oh my god.
Fucking God.
Yeah.
They
If you want that sort of stuff, this isn't the podcast.
Yeah, you're in the wrong place. No wonder we've only got 400 subscribers. But here we are. If you did like this episode, then please like and subscribe. If you like something a bit more real, chill.
If you are 20 and share our sensibilities, then please comment.
Yeah, please
subscribe.
Please do.
What do you want to talk about next? Jim Ryan being Jim Ryan?
Sure.
Or, what is Google Stadia?
Stadia. Well, you've got it wrong altogether, so it's all good. It's definitely Stadia. But yeah, we can talk about Jim Ryan first.
Showing how much I've researched this story.
Absolutely. You don't even know what Stadia is. God damn it.
Oh, Stadia.
Stadia.
So Jim Ryan has been flying to Brussels. To meet with European Union regulators, scrutinizing Microsoft's
I'm gonna read it out. You take a break because you're clearly having a breakdown and a stroke at the same time. It's all good.
I've had one wine, and that's what happens.
That's too many.
Ugh.
It's one wine too many already. Get some water in you. So yeah, according to Deal Reporter sources, paywalled. Apparently, Deal Reporter is a paid services, much like the Wall Street Journal. The Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO personally visited the EU headquarters on September 8th to voice the console's rivals' concern over the proposed $68.7 billion deal. That number is still mind-blowing to me. I still can't get my head around it.
68.7.
It's hard to get around 68 million, never mind 68 billion. That's just redonkulous. So he's had concerns mainly over the Call of Duty series, apparently. So PlayStation concerns over the deal around the future releases arrangements for Call of Duty series, which is regularly PlayStation's annual bestseller, and whether it will be pulled from the platforms. So he basically went over there and was like, I don't like this because we're going to lose money, and Xbox are going to take all the money because they've got all the money to spend.
Monopoly.
Yeah, even though
but it's not Monopoly.
Yeah, even though they've just bought Destiny 2, and that's like, a massive seller. But PlayStation buying Destiny is kind of, that's allowed. This is a funny old one. It won't work because Phil Spencer has said multiple times, and he's aired it quite often, that he has no plans whatsoever to remove Call of Duty from the PlayStation platform. He's going to be incredibly intelligent about this and just be like, yeah, you can absolutely still have Call of Duty for $70. That's absolutely fine. We're going to put it on Game Pass for free. So people are just going to want to come over here anyway. So
people
it's still
go to whatever platform they want to. Yeah, they'll be able to find it on their preferred platform with no trouble.
Yeah, it is basic capitalism.
For several more years, at least.
Yeah. It's just the free market. That this is what it is. This is what it does.
Not really much to say, except he flew to Brussels to do that. Although that's what's been
he
reported.
has to.
Did he have a business meeting in Brussels anyway? And he thought, I might as well go over there and do this. And he might be talking about way more stuff. And he knows that it's going to go through. He knows that. They just got to jump through the hoops, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, because of the board at PlayStation, like, yeah, you need to go over there and fight this for us because we need Call of Duty forever, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then he goes over and is like, yeah, okay. He like jumps through the hoops, but he knows, like they know, everyone knows, like this.
Everyone
will go
knows.
through. It absolutely will.
Yeah.
So it's too much money to ignore it, and it's also like it's actually not a monopoly. And like we spoke,
there's no evidence. Yeah, there's no evidence to suggest so far that it in any way is a monopoly because there's going to be games available on multiple platforms.
Yeah, and PlayStation have absolutely shot themselves in the foot as well because they've not only said, okay, like this was a monopoly because PlayStation don't have any rival to something like Game Pass. They do now. So they've sort of shot themselves in the foot even more so. They've actually made a really good argument for Xbox to say, well, they've got their own streaming platform as well now, so like we're not the only one, so we're not a monopoly. Like we're able to do this. Oh, by the way, Nintendo have also got one. Oh, by the way, there's Google Stadia. Oh wait, no, there isn't. And there's other people as well.
Stadia.
Sorry, is that the Sherlock Holmes version? So that was a meta joke right there.
Wow, lots of Venn diagrams being drawn on that one.
Indeed. My God, like get the string and pins out. Yeah, it's there's too many arms to the industry for this to be a monopoly. Like it's just not gonna be considered as.
They could make Destiny free, couldn't they?
Yeah, they already have. That's the thing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
And there's like you can't even argue that Call of Duty is a monopoly in and of itself, because there's Battlefield, there's Fortnite, which makes way more money than other things like that. That's the
if you
thing.
want Modern Warfare shooter, World War II shooter, crazy upside down, crazy stuff shooter, you've got a plethora of choice. There's literally no one going, oh, I can't. Yeah. I need to buy this platform because it's only got this shooter game. Yeah. There's plenty.
Yeah, and they've sort of PlayStation keeps shooting themselves in the foot with this stuff as well, because they're like, well, they're only going to play these games over there because like they've exclusively got access to PC and the Xbox consoles, but then they release their own, not only their own sort of rival to Game Pass, but then they also start putting games on PC. So it's kind of like, okay, but like if you can put games on their platform and they're putting games on your platform, how is this a monopoly exactly? PlayStation? Yeah. It's not.
You literally have people talking to each other probably every day about games that are coming out and stuff.
Right. So it's as much as like this makes headlines and stuff, and people are like, "Ooh, maybe it'll get blocked," and it's like courtroom drama stuff. It's like it won't.
Yeah.
Like and if it does, then it will be a stupid reason. It'll be someone's personal opinion that will get fought in the courts, and it'll go up somewhere higher, and then it will get kicked back down again. Like there's just no reason for this to not go through.
Well, they're saying that they're doing the Phase 1 review now, and then they've got a deadline of November the 8th before whether or not they do or don't enter a second, more detailed investigation phase. So this could be it. This could be the last headline, and then after the 8th, it could just all go through. Yeah. Or the commission could investigate further, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We shall see, indeed. Yeah.
We'll probably talk about it again on this podcast.
But I can't get away from it, man. It's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. We've got to talk about it because it keeps coming up. But yeah, I mean, there's really no reason for it to come up. But yeah, this is very part of the course. Like the CEO is like sort of fighting their corners for this sort of stuff because they absolutely want to keep Call of Duty on their thing. And really, what this is probably doing more than anything is that Jim Ryan is fighting for more years of confirmation to have Call of Duty remain on the PlayStation platform. Because while they can be like, yeah, at least the next 5 years, Call of Duty is still going to remain on the PlayStation platforms, he's pushing for 10, right? Like that's what he's sort of going for. He knows there will be a day where Call of Duty doesn't come to their systems. But
call it 7 and then say it's a console cycle, and then fair game, whatever happens after that. Because both people can't, Xbox can't. It's not really fair for Xbox to keep it more than 7 years because
what are you paying
we're both
for
going to have different consoles by then. We don't know what the state of the industry is going to be like by then, and that's from history. It's fair, that's fair claim, I'd say.
And really, like ultimately, to be really blunt about this, Xbox could be like, yeah, we can absolutely keep Call of Duty on the Xbox for 10 years, on PlayStation for 10 years. That's not a problem. They come out, they say that the second that the deal goes through, they're like, yeah, we're pulling Call of Duty next year from PlayStation platforms. They're legally allowed to do that for the most part.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, well, probably not like
exciting changes in the industry and
I mean, they can sign, if they don't sign a contract with PlayStation directly, like they can sort of do what the hell they want with this stuff. I mean, like Starfield is case in point. That's not coming to the PlayStation platforms whatsoever. So it's kind of like, and that's going to be a good game, and PlayStation are going to miss that one. And when Call of Duty goes down that route, they're going to miss it.
It's going to be a big game. We know it's going to be a big game. We hope it's going to be a good game.
Oh, I mean, it's. I'm not talking about like the quality of the game or how good it's going to be. Like it could absolutely tank, and it could be like the next Cyberpunk sort of thing. Even though Cyberpunk sold,
but it's still going to sell.
It's going to sell. Yeah,
Cyberpunk's still more popular than Witcher 3, which just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, I mean the fact that Starfield is free as well on Game Pass is kind of like that's a big boon for that service more than anything.
Yeah, people will be buying Xboxes for that game, I imagine.
Yeah, and it's like you sort of saw this with Rings of Power on Amazon Prime, right? Like nobody nobody like has really had a consensus if that show is good or bad. But it's not important. It's done. It's brought a lot of viewers to that platform. So it really like there's some products out there that just don't. It doesn't actually really matter like how good they're going to be in the end. Like it's just going to pull people. Call of Duty is one of those IPs. Starfield is one of those IPs. The next Elder Scrolls is, that will shift units regardless of how terrible it is. So that's sort of what make my assumptions on more than anything.
Yeah. Never thought about that with games. Like, you buy the game and you enjoy the game. Is it because of the hype and the expectation and then the fact that you've had all that back catalogue of games? Interesting.
I mean, the case in point is is Cyberpunk, right? Like that game got reviewed, didn't get great reviews, had a lot of controversy around it, still sold 13 million in its first week. 13 million. Bananas. Most games don't even hit 10. 13 in its first week. It's now up to 20 million. Even after, because it's just the train of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt that was rolling behind it. Like, it just pushes momentum forward.
Just
and it
pushed
doesn't matter. Because talked about this a million times. Gamers do not vote with their wallets. They just don't pay attention. They don't care. They just get sucked into the market and they just buy this stuff blindly all the time.
It works. Marketing really works.
Yeah, and they complain
at the top end
about it
anyway.
after the
At the
fact.
top end.
That's what they do. So that being the case, like, third parties know this more than anything. So yeah, Jim Ryan can fight all he wants, but he's not gonna make a shit difference.
He might get a couple more years off of his efforts.
If they can get Phil Spencer to sign a contract. If they don't, then,
which is not entitled, which does not legally have to.
Yeah, I don't think so anyway. He might have to for like to get it through for like the first few years or something, but I don't think it'll be as far into the future as people think. Because I don't know, like I go back and forth on this all the time, because like the only thing, because if they could keep Call of Duty on PlayStation forever and it would not make a difference, because if Xbox are just releasing every single Call of Duty onto Game Pass for free and just being like, yeah, sign up to Game Pass, you get access to like the new Call of Duty game and all the DLC for free, no problem. Like if you're going into a GameStop or like a game in the UK, right, and you're like looking at the Xbox Series X and you're looking at the PS5 and you're a Call of Duty player, what are you gonna buy? You're gonna buy an Xbox and you're gonna be like, I'm just gonna pay $100 a year and have access to the 500 games plus the Call of Duty game I want to play. You know, it's just a no-brainer, and it's like they know that, and they've got that power, and it's fair game, because like the courts are going to look at this like, okay, so you can still sell Call of Duty on the system, and you're like, if you're just wanting to give it away for free, like on this subscription platform, which is also not Monopoly because Sony's got one of those too, they could do the same thing, I guess. Like there's really no conflict of interest here. Like they're just like, it's fair technically. Like you can do what the hell you want, like as long as they've both got access to it. So it's Call of Duty is already $70 right now. So they're not even going to raise the price on it. Just the whole like monopoly discussion around this just angers me, because people just don't understand.
Doesn't hold water, does it?
No.
Yeah. And the fact that, you know, PlayStation have got plenty of shooting games.
Plenty. A lot.
It's the audience being catered for.
Yeah, I mean, Battlefield had a bad year this year, but if it didn't, like, this wouldn't really be a discussion. So it's more about, like, what
maybe
does
that's
bad
why,
rather than what does good a lot of the time.
Yeah. Time's getting away from us.
Yeah.
When you're having fun.
Yeah,
so
we can blast through this last
Google
one.
Stadia. It will shut down in 2023. All purchases will be refunded. The search giant's cloud gaming service will be shut down. I guess what makes this newsworthy is twofold. It's the fact that developers and publishers and people even that worked at Google, it took them by surprise and it hit them left field. And
I don't know about that. But yeah.
Oh, that's what I've read in this thing, that developers were kind of taken aback when the news suddenly announced. Maybe people could see it coming from a long way, because obviously Google Stadia is a terrible platform, terrible service.
Right.
But it at least wasn't whispers and it didn't leak before the actual announcement happened.
Yeah,
and
the
so
announcement
people that were working there were like, "What the?"
Yeah, of course.
So it's maybe not be surprising, but developers, especially that are having conversations daily, with these people at Google Stadia, like I've seen tweets from like publishers that are like, "Hey, we've been trying to get through to people at Google, but since the news, like they're just not coming back to us." I'm guessing lots of people were suddenly then saying, "Hey, is everything still happening with our game?" Because there's man hours going in at these studios that are putting these games on the platforms, right? And then suddenly they're going to be offering refunds to everyone. Like that, they're kind of. Yeah, they should have given a bit of a corporate heads up, I think, to make sure that they stop new games coming on from a certain time period before they announced that it wasn't going to be happening, because it's just wasting a lot of people's time, effort, and energy, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's Google. It's what Google does.
Yeah.
They try their hand with new things, and then if it doesn't work within 12 months, they give it the old snip and they get rid of it. It's really that. Like when they announced Stadia, like go and look back at like people's reactions to the announcement of Stadia, and it's kind of like the prophecy was sort of true. Like, oh yeah, like this, give it 12 months and it'll be shut down. Like it's Google, and they were right, because like this is what Google do. Like they've got a load of money, so they just sort of like wander into industries and they're like, oh yeah, we can do this and we can make money. Like, and just start throwing cash at stuff. And it's like, yeah, you can do that, but this is the proof that you can't just do that, because Google have tried their hand at social medias. They failed. They've tried their hand at video games industry now. They've failed. Like, I'm waiting for the next thing to come about, which is what, like, TV. They're probably going to try their own Netflix service, and it's probably going to fail. Well, they already have tried that, through YouTube, right? And it's still kind of not really taken off. So it's kind of
chugging along.
Yeah, they're just like, just stick to what you're good at pretty much, or at least give it enough time to actually let it mature to the point that you can build an industry.
Understand you're going to make a loss until you establish groundwork and footing. Yeah, you're like, all these games companies are doing well. They didn't just come out of nowhere. They had a track record of achievements. Yeah, before they got to where they got to. So yeah, so Stadia is £8.99 a month. After an initial trial,
it's 12. I think it's 12 USD. So
$12.
Yeah.
Or you can play arcade games for 60 minutes for free.
Bad business model.
And then you have to buy games on top.
Yeah, this is the problem. Like, so, like the beauty of something like cloud gaming is to remove the need for people to buy a console. Like the biggest issue that we have in the video games industry right now is that it's a massive barrier to entry at this point. Like, this is why we have so many mobile game players, is because like most people just have a mobile already. So it removes that barrier of needing a console, needing the physical hardware. They just buy a game and they play it, or they just download a game and play it. The biggest issue which we've had with video games industry is that like you have to buy a up to $500 console, and it's like, that is a lot of money just to then put another 70 down just to play a game. So you're talking 570 before taxes, just to like get one game into a system in your living room. That's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money. So we've been trying to figure out ways for years to get away from that, and Stadia was the answer to, like, one of the answers to that, which has now been they've sort of just been shoved out by the Xbox Game Pass and cloud gaming and stuff like that. But it removes the need. Like, here's a controller. You sign up for it, you get a controller, and you can go and play games that you need to buy on our platform. Just a terrible business model to say you need to subscribe, because you basically
subscribe and buy.
Yeah, you're subscribing to have a console, which isn't really a console in your house. It's just a server somewhere, which might be laggy as hell. Yeah, this is kind of what happens. Which doesn't make sense to me, like in terms of still paying $70 or $60 for a game, because the reason why games cost $60 on other systems is because the cut for them systems usually is about 30%, right? So if you put a game onto Sony PlayStation 5 right now, 30% goes straight to Sony, straight away, without no questions asked. That's the fee. Google would have been doing the same. They would have been taking 30%, and then on top of that, they're asking their customers to pay even more, just for the service stuff. It's like, okay, well, what are you doing with that 30 other than just like fill in the pockets of Google? I don't really understand why you needed that extra like subscription service. Like, I don't really see what's the point of that. You know, if people are buying games from you, then
they're not offering anything unique or different, or at least comparable. It's just slightly worse. The one thing I would say that they do arguably better, just based on me browsing the website, so it's very, very little amount of research,
right,
is that they do offer like demos for free, so you can start playing the game from like the word go for like 30 minutes or an hour sometimes for free.
Sure, but you still have to pay $60.
You still have to pay if you then want to play it. So would you end up getting frustrated, going, I don't think that's actually worth £8, considering I've already paid £8.
It's
it's like £16 just to play one game.
It's a lot. It's too much. Like, that's the thing. Like, you're asking too much from people. Like, you're removing the barrier of entry and that adding a new one. It's like, okay, like, what's the? Can you imagine you have to sign up to Netflix for $12 a month, and then every show that you watch, you have to buy them.
You have to pay.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Like, it's suicide.
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
And Google are just like, well, we're Google. Like, we need to make cash off this, otherwise, like, it's not worth it, right? But this is the games industry. Game industry stuff takes a long time to sort of grow and simmer, and you have to really nurture it. But then when you do get to the point where that thing flowers and blooms, like, you are making bank at that point. Like, look at Xbox. Yeah. They have been nurturing this Game Pass thing for years. Like, this was happening before the Xbox Series X was even announced. Yeah. Like, this is mid-cycle Xbox One. They started talking about Game Pass, and they started like talking about the future of what that would be. It is only now this year started to kick off. That's how long it took them. Like, we're talking like 5 years-ish just to get people in the cycle, and that's before all the R&D that they did before they even released it. You know, like, it's a good 7 years. And Google come in for like 2 years, and they're like, yeah, it didn't work out. It's like, are you serious? Guys, like, I mean, brainstorm this a little bit. Like, think about it. Like, nurture it. Actually, think about it.
Give away some games for a bit, you know, try to get some player base.
They could have done so much with this. Like, why isn't...
Adapt and survive, right? But they're not. They're just cutting their losses.
Where's the integration with YouTube? You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine that? Like, oh, okay, you're watching a trailer to a game, and a button comes up, and it's like, play now, and you click it. You pick up your controller, and you're playing it there and then. Like, play the trial. Yeah. Where's that feature, guys? Seriously, like, you would have been rolling in it. Like,
and that's the future. We all know that's going to be the future. There's going to be some sort of platform that comes along and integrates gaming with their social media platform, or like with some sort of platform like YouTube, or a video streaming platform. I mean, like, Netflix have been trying to get into games, not very successfully, but you can see how Netflix and gaming could work.
Yeah, they're building it, though. That's the thing. Because if they've got certain shows, like, okay, let's set up Netflix, and Netflix, like, integrate a cloud gaming service, right, to their thing. Imagine it. You watch the season 1 of The Witcher. At the end of each episode, do you want to play The Witcher 3? Yes. Click. Pick up a controller. Carry on playing. Yeah, it's stuff like that, because they've got a load of shows that are doing that. Not just
or have
The Witcher.
A really cool dynamic thing, like dynamic team that make a little game or a little level off the back of what's happening in the episode. That'd be so cool.
Sure. I mean, you could play with gimmicky stuff like that, and it would absolutely work, and it would bring people into the fold. But, like, ultimately, you just want people to stay in your system. That's it. That's the ultimate goal to all of this. It's not really to get people to buy games or to watch TV shows. It's just like, you just want them to stay in your thing for as long as possible, so you can throw ads at them, or like get them to keep subscribing, so like you're getting more money off it. So how you go about it? It's like a
value revenue, I suppose, isn't it? It's like
Stadia was a funny one. It's just a strange business model, because they had a solution, but then they attacked it with an old school style way of thinking, which just wasn't. I just don't know how it could have ever succeeded without that sort of.
To me, it kind of smacks of like game system by committee. Like, you had one group going, we need to have a subscription model. Everyone's got a subscription model. If we don't have a subscription model, we're dead in the water. And then you've got another group of people going, we need to be making money. Games companies charge money for their games. We need to also have a charge on the games.
Yeah.
And you've got another group of people going, let's just let him play the game for like 30 minutes or an hour. We'll do some deals here and there. And everyone got the green light. And so you've got that awkward, clunky system where you don't know where you stand. And
there's too many things.
You can scroll around. And again, one of my biggest problems I get with these user interfaces, I know it's designed to try and trick you into making money because you don't know how much it's going to cost you before you're looking at it. But to me, I just want to know what I'm going to get for my money while I'm searching. So if it's free, I'm going to search for the free. If it's premium, I want to search for the premium. I don't want to be tricked into like coming onto something that piques my interest and then finding out later along down the line that it's only going to be 30 minutes and then you've got to pay for it. I hate that. Absolutely hate that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me being an old grumpy, a millennial.
No, I mean it's very much it's to do with that user experience. Like people don't think about player experience too often when it comes to this stuff, but it's the most vital thing. Okay, you're a new user. You come onto the Google Stadia website. You see this Stadia controller floating around the website. So okay, hey, how do I get that controller?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's $12 a month. And I see all these buttons that say play for 30 minutes, play for 1 hour, play for 120 minutes. How much is this going to cost me? It's like there's too many questions. You come out with like all these questions. Like what Stadia?
There's no comparison
Pro,
with Xbox. I mean? There's no comparison. There should be a comparison with like, here's how we compare to Xbox. Here's how we compare to PlayStation. You can get this many more games on Google Stadia for this much less money overall, based on a survey we did where people played 4 games a week for 3 months.
Yeah.
And on average, these people are spending less. Like even if they had that'd be something.
Yeah, just a bad business model. Like what they should have done is just remove that subscription altogether. Being like, okay, you can use any Bluetooth controller you've got right now in your house, can be able to connect it to your TV because that technology is coming as well. Being able to connect it to your TV like at any point, like without a console whatsoever, and then just be able to stream games, like, and you can play games based on the platform. You can either buy games straight from us, like on the Google Stadia platform, or you can link it with like these other systems that you've got already. Like if you've already got a Steam account with a bunch of games in your library or something, then you should be able to just hook in. That's why GeForce Now is doing so well, is because that's literally their model. You can buy games from GeForce, or you can hook up your Steam account and just stream games you already own on Steam, which is that is exactly what they should be doing. And they just missed that boat, and GeForce are just going to dominate the PC space. Console space is never going to happen, but I think for PC, I think that the fight between Xbox and GeForce Now is going to be the next big thing now that they've Stadia moved out of the way. But yeah, weird decisions happening. But to sort of like encapsulate like the whole thing, most people didn't even know what Google Stadia was, like probably yourself included.
Yeah. I'd heard of it, but I knew it wasn't anything that people talked about with any great reverence, and so I just avoided it because it's like,
sure,
I don't have enough time to figure out what that's about.
Yeah, and it's same things for Amazon, right? Like I can't remember what their system's called, Lunia or whatever it is, Luma. I actually have no idea what it was called, but they've got a similar situation. Like the way that they've got their channels sort of set up, it's weird. Like you're subscribing to publishers rather than a service as a whole. It's very strange, but they're trying to go for like that cable side of things. I think it's going to fail as well. They'll probably shut that down within the coming year or something.
I think there's scope for like Fire Stick type dongle that you sell with a really decent Bluetooth controller. And
most people have controllers in their house, so that's the thing.
Yeah, but like Xbox and PlayStation won't be able to. They would never license their use for another platform, right?
Sure, they would. You can play PC games with a PlayStation controller right now. Like I don't know.
Okay, well, like an Amazon Fire Stick, right? That plugs into your telly, and then you can like link up Steam, link up. Fine. We're doing pie in the sky, Vin.
Sure,
fine. We can link up any Bluetooth control you want, even a remote control.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can play or your keyboard or your mouse, if they're Bluetooth, and play games on your TV, streaming through a dongle, and it's like an Amazon service, and it's like links to Steam, and is super cheap because the only way you're going to beat Xbox and PlayStation is by being cheap, especially if you're going to be streaming this stage where we are with the internet And then when the internet gets better, it's just going to become more and more appealing. It's going to be quicker and quicker, less and less lag, more and more coverage in the UK and America and Europe and stuff. I think there's a scope for that to succeed.
Yeah, it's just finding the right combination.
These huge, massive tech companies can't do startups because they just get too scared, and they don't double down on an idea. They don't have any people that are spearheading. It's just all run by committee, and then you have
they've got no passion for it.
things.
That's the problem. There's no passion for it. They come into this industry and they just think, oh yeah, we can make money on this as well. They throw cash at it and like, 6 months in, it's like, oh, where's our return on this? And it's like, are you serious? Like, it's 6 months, guys. Like, let's leave this a few years. Years? We're not waiting years. Like, we need returns like by the end of the year, otherwise we're gonna pull this thing. And then like they get to the end of the year, yep, all right, it's time to pull. Like we've you know, like we've been going 18 months and we still haven't seen a return on this thing. So,
and that's exactly it. They're talking about returns and talking about money. They're not talking about solution. With the tech industry, especially with tech and entertainment, what works is a solution. So Netflix was a groundbreaking solution to a problem that people didn't know existed.
Yeah.
Like iPhone was a solution to problems that people didn't know that they had. And you need to do the same thing with gaming and tech and streaming and hardware. Like there needs to be some sort of through thread which solves a problem that people have got with the current status quo. That could be price, but it's never going to be at a premium. Like premium prices for things is that market is tied up down the PC market and then down the console market separately. Like you need something that's going to draw those strings together, and for it to be cheaper than everything else for it to work. That's my $1 million idea.
Yeah, no, you're right. I can't really see, because you need to start out cheap and then make them more expensive over time, which is pretty much what Xbox is going to be doing. I think Xbox are going to have the winning ticket to this. They will win this race eventually. Because Sony, like the way that they've come out with the PlayStation Plus service, is kind of still really undercooked right now. Like they've still got a lot of work to do. But who knows? Like we'll see what happens. But like Stadia is like, this is just another tick box. Like we've got the other ones to sort of fall as well, like Amazon's system. Like it's just completely fell off the radar. No one's really talking about it. Same thing with any others that sort of pop up. The real fight is going to be between Xbox, PlayStation, and GeForce Now, but we'll see. Yeah, I mean,
you need it to be the cheapest option, have a really good quality Bluetooth controller or something, or at least sync up with others.
Yeah,
and then just be crap for a couple of years until the internet gets better, and then automatically, just through time, your system gets the user base that want cheap entertainment quickly on the fly, and then suddenly it's going to be better than all the consoles.
Yeah, I mean, we will get to that point where the internet is not only fast enough. I know, like, people like always argue, it's like, yeah, but the upload and download, there's always going to be some lag and some delay. They'll figure something out. Like they absolutely will. And when that day comes where it's like indistinguishable for like most gamers, like once they hit, the majority of gamers cannot tell the difference between streaming and local. Obviously, like the hardcore, like 120 FPS, like first person, like gamers that are just locked into their like high refresh rate monitors are always going to notice, obviously. But the average gamer, like the majority, like the casual gamer that just wants to play a video game every now and then, once they can't recognize the difference, that's when this just shifts, and people are like, why are we making consoles? Like, I'd be really, really, really shocked if Xbox don't come out with either a dongle to just replace their console within the next couple of years, or a handheld that is just streaming only. Like, I would be astounded if Xbox don't do that within the next 18 months. Like, really shocked. Because it's just like, you're pushing towards this future of the console-less games industry, which is that is the point that we want to get to, because we want to remove that barrier of entry. So, like, and Stadia was that sort of solution, but they just didn't have the model to sort of sustain it. So they had the tech without the model, and now Xbox is sort of heading towards that tech. So yeah, fascinating times. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, most people don't even know what Google Stadia is. Like, as per this article, which I'm looking at from PocketLint.com, headline: What is Google Stadia? Why it's shutting down? And what are the alternatives? That's how they started with this story. So it's kind of like, yeah, this is the world that we're currently living in when it comes to cloud streaming and stuff. It still hasn't really broken into the mainstream, but when it does, it's gonna kick off.
It's gonna take over eventually. It's just when and who, still up for grabs.
Indeed. Indeed.
So yeah, I guess that's time. It's a good place to stop.
Yeah, pretty much wraps it up. Have you been playing anything?
Yeah. A bit of Death's Door.
Nice.
It's been ages since I played it, so I was hoping that the level design was good enough for there to be memorable mind maps, and there were. I kind of figured out where I was going pretty quickly after a long time not playing it, and got through to the witches bit and got stuck a few bits. I had to do a bit of Googling, but yeah, I'm really happy with it. It's really good, really fun.
Yeah, I'm loving that game. I really, really love that game. It's probably my game of the year last year. Yeah, I bought and installed because it was super cheap. It was on sale. I finally pulled the trigger on Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Installed that last week. Yeah, that game is pretty polished at this point. They have cleaned it up for next gen anyway. Do not buy it on last gen. Jesus. Like, they've stopped patching it altogether. They just gave up on it. So, yeah, look into it. Like, whatever console you got, do not buy the game on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. Like, it's suicide, apparently. Just don't do it. But on the PS5, which I'm currently playing it on, it was like $25. So I was like, yeah, screw it. Why not? Like, it's cheap as hell. So
yeah, bought
it. Super polished, really well designed game in terms of like visuals, the way that the world looks. Like, it feels like you're in a Blade Runner movie. So far, so good. I'm enjoying it. We'll see how the following hours sort of come along. But I'm glad I waited, that's for sure. Because I watched a couple of videos before I finally pulled the trigger on people that are like sort of giving updates about like how like the current condition of the game is. And people were just showing, this is how the game was. And it was like, Jesus Christ, like that game was bad. Like, I don't understand how it came out in such poor condition. But yeah, they've fixed a lot of this stuff. And I've only seen like a couple of bugs. Like you see like people smoking a cigarette and the cigarette's like floating out in front of them and stuff like that. You know, that's about the extent of the issues which I've seen so far. And I've been playing for about 3 hours. My wife got very excited about the fact that you could choose what type of penis you want. So she was happy about that.
And you have to tell us what sort of penis you went for, Vin.
I didn't. I went with a lady, actually. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can put a penis on a lady, obviously. It's the day and age we live in. But it's I did. I voted out for that one. I'm like, yeah, it's not really my thing. So I
no penis for me, thank you.
Well, but you can choose with and without the English extras, if you know what I mean. So
what, testicles?
No.
Oh,
foreskin.
Oh, right. Okay.
There goes the monetization.
That's not an extra. That's a standard, and it's a mod. Otherwise,
True.
Right?
Yeah, it's more about like
the OG, original.
The OG. The English extras. That should be
English extras. No, that's terrible kind of phrase.
Good times.
Yeah, it would be modded to have it removed.
Right. This is true. Which is stupid because, you know, like 500 years of evolution, I'm pretty sure the body knows what it's doing. So we should probably leave that there. This is a weird discussion. I want to get out of here.
It's taken a turn.
It's taken a turn. But yeah, play Cyberpunk. It's actually not that bad anymore. So if you have got a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, then I do recommend it at a sale price. Because you don't want to reward them too much for the bad state that it originally came out in. People that bought this day one, like, they need to sort their lives out.
Rethink. Yeah.
Because all the
they deserve a slap on the wrist, money wise. No. Do they deserve to have more sales than Witcher 3?
I don't know. They're getting a current resurgence of the game at the moment because they release an anime on Netflix, like, which I was talking about. Like, same thing. So,
and I've heard good things.
Yeah, I've heard the anime is really good, but like, apparently they've hit like a higher peak of concurrent players on Steam than the Witcher 3 for Cyberpunk now. So more people are playing Cyberpunk than ever played the Witcher 3 on Steam. So it's an interesting...
Is that more a commentary on Steam?
Yeah, are the more Steam gamers? Absolutely. So it's kind of that... I never liked them metrics anyway, because it's always like, oh, more people voted in the last election, and it's like, yeah, because there's more people.
More people. I know it happen every year. Yeah.
Yeah, it's stupid.
This has happened every year since elections existed. Yeah.
Yeah, like I hate it when they do that sort of stuff. Like whenever you watch an Apple event, it's like, this is our best phone we've ever made. It was like, well, yeah, duh. Like you're not going to make a worse one, are you morons? Like I hate it when they say stuff like that.
This is our second best phone we've ever made.
It's not as good as the one we made 5 years ago, but it's almost.
Yeah, it's a bit cheaper. Yeah, the camera's slightly not as good, slightly less money.
It annoys me. Really annoys me. Oh my god, this game sold more. Like it made more money than the other game from 25 years ago. So like, yeah, probably because the economy is like different. You know, like it costs like £3 to buy a loaf of bread now. Like it used to cost like 50p. You know what I mean? Like of course you're gonna make more money off the bread. You know, it's kind of
good point. Good point. Yeah. Oh
well. Anyway,
so where can we find your indie game, Long Gun, your zombie puzzle pixelated game?
Anywhere, pretty much. If you search Hill Fort Games on TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, you will come across the little pixel art zombie game. That is me. Be sure to like and subscribe and all sort of good stuff. Keep up to date with the game. It's going to start ramping up again pretty soon, so I'm really excited to get back into that, and I'll be sharing updates, especially on Twitter. That'll be my main point of entry. TikTok is apparently like currently going through the system in the US Senate where it might be getting banned, so like that whole platform might collapse at some point in the near future. So how sustainable that's going to be, like for me to carry on working on that, is a different thing. But
is that because it's Chinese?
Probably. Yeah, they don't like Chinese people apparently collecting information on users or something. I'm not like I don't know the political side of it.
Kettle black, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, fine. It's kind of ironic considering America does that a lot, like representation without taxation, and then you move there as a foreigner, and like tax, but you can't vote. It's like all right,
you can't vote. Yeah, it's like should I ever say?
Is that fair?
Yeah,
isn't this what you started a war over? Yeah, shut up. All right, cool. Pretty standard.
Good point.
There it is.
Good point.
How about you, Soap? Where can people find you and your shenanigans?
If you search for acrylic pixel, you can wishlist my little floaty orb mental health type game Focus Find on Steam. You can wishlist that. It's called Focus Find, and my studio is Acrylic Pixel. So on Twitch, I'm Acrylic Pixel, TikTok, yada yada yada.
Google it.
YouTube. Google it. You'll find it.
You will find it. Cool.
Yes. Cool. We do a little indie game dev roundtable sort of once a month where we talk about our indie games with Sam Webster. Stay tuned for that. And if not, we'll be back next week with another episode talking about game news and shenanigans and game industry stuff.
We shall.
Until then, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.